I'm Victoria Jenkins and I'm the founder of Unhidden, an adaptive fashion brand for people with disabilities.
Hi, I'm Lovelle. I'm a singer-songwriter and also a model and a couple other things.
Hi, I'm Karoline and I'm the founder of Karoline Vitto, a diverse brand based in London.
So I'll start with you, Lovelle. So you've done, it's Lovelle, sorry, isn't it? I've just said it
No,
wrong.
it's okay. My dad sang Lovella all through the house. It's fine. It's okay. Yeah.
So how did you get started in the industry? Like, what was your first role?
In regards to fashion modeling.
Yeah.
Well, first, the word model for me is still quite a brand new term because music has always been first and it's something I've always known myself to be involved in. But in like modeling, so speaking earlier on about walking in my college fashion show with a fan man on my arm, it was me doing that. And I think that was kind of like the first time experiencing people looking at me for how I looked in that type of environment, like that type of big environment. And then throughout music, I guess because music and fashion, go hand in hand. So we had people from like Nike, Adidas, some makeup brands would give me or things and like model things and talk about myself in relation to their brand. And then my first huge big role was the beautiful Karoline that put me, in her show, and that was my first ever London Fashion Week walking for an icon. So yeah.
How did you feel like before and afterwards? Like, what's the?
Oh my God, I'm still breathing from that day. So I feel like I made sure that I kept it true with myself. So I'm from Southeast. A lot of people might know Woolwich, and that's kind of like the high street that I would always walk down. And so when I was actually about to go on, the Queen Alva was behind me, and I was like gassed that she was even there, closing the show behind me. And I remember she was like, you've got this, like chill, relax. And then as I went on, I was like, don't try to do anything different because you're here simply because of yourself and how you already are.
Yeah.
So I just pretended like I was walking through Woolwich. I'll be honest. Like I was like, how are you going to the shops? Like, it's a nice little runway. And that's And then after that, I actually remember being invited. I think it was like to go get food after, buy almonds and that. And then he doesn't even know this, but I lied and I was like, oh, I've got something to do. I had nothing to do. But I realized that I was like, I need to take in this moment that just happened. So I went home, I sat with my mum, I had my brother on the phone, and I just thought about the times that people tell me things that I can't do. And I've had people tell me that you're not a model and you can't do this. And I remember sat with my mum and I started crying like a baby. And I was like, oh, I'm actually real. I done it. And I went to work the next day because I'm a hustler. So, so it was like a very surreal moment, but it always keeps me very grounded because I'm grateful. I work very hard, but I'm very grateful to also be allowed in spaces that I've been dreaming to be in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What was the reaction like from your friends and family, like, or even complete strangers? Did you have people like being?
Yeah. So I remember I went out to Soho that night, and I remember I went to go see one of my good friends, and he's always been like, he's a friend that lives across my street from when I was young.
Oh, nice.
And we went out, and he started documenting me, and he was like, Lovelle, how do you feel? He's like, you landed in Vogue on runway today. And I was just like, I just kept thinking, I have an incredible amount of friends and family around me. I have been honestly like incredibly blessed with such a great community of people, and they were as proud of me as I was of myself. So everybody still to this day is like, don't remember what you're capable of. And I'm 5'4", I'm thick, and I walked a runway, and for me it was like, it's possible. It's very possible.
Definitely. Well, thanks to people.
Yeah, creating beautiful things.
So how did you find Lovelle? How did you find all of your models actually? Like, how did you go about casting it to be inclusive?
Yeah, so one of the things that we always take into consideration when we are casting is the energy of the models. especially because for us, it's always been about having a full curve cast. For me, it's never been an option to do something different. It's how the brand started. I always started sampling on a size 16 or 18. It's how really the brand was born. And the reason for that was because I wanted to try pieces on. I wanted to see how they felt. I wanted to see how they worked in terms of support or in terms of like the real actual comfort of it. And especially because I was designing things that at the time they were quite revealing, and I wanted to feel how I would feel as a wearer of those pieces, because obviously also I don't want to make something that people would feel uncomfortable in. So something quite fascinating happens when the models try the pieces on, and I don't know if you can agree or not, but for me it's always like my favorite moment is when we're doing a fitting, we put something on, and the model looks in the mirror and she goes like, you know. So that's when I know it worked. And I think for us it was about finding that feeling, like finding the people that felt that when they put the clothes on, because they had the energy of the brand, and also seeing how they walked and had the kind of like the energy that they had in their walk as well, because when we talk about curve for runway, there's not a lot of representation going on, and there's a lot of these models, they don't get the chance to be cast very often. So you have models that sometimes they are more experienced in photo shoots, for example, but they didn't have a lot of experience in catwalk. So that's when we found Lovelle, because like when I saw her walk, I was like, yes, that's the energy we need. Like we need her, because we needed someone like her to like keep the pace, like to have, you know, the girls, you know, and energize everyone. So for me, it's always about like creating this recipe of joining like forces. We need someone who I know like is gonna be twerking backstage, you know, and you know we need someone who's gonna like push everybody up, and we need someone who's going to be a bit like grounded, but you know is going to keep the energy, you know, at a peaceful level. Like I always try to like match the energy of everyone in the backstage. So yeah, that's how
sisterhood.
Exactly. And I think something really beautiful was created in that first show, because a lot of the girls, they kept in touch with each other, and you know I felt like we created a little community, and that kept happening every time we do like a shoot or anything else that we do for the brand. It's always like the models, you know, I feel like they really support the brand, the customers as well. We have this little like force of people helping each other, lifting each other up, and for me that's really what it's about, and it's what really keeps me motivated to carry on as well. So yeah, I think for us there's like a little mix of things that go into the casting, but I always work with casting directors that I feel like understand what I believe in, and that understand where I'm coming from as well. So yeah, that's how we go about it.
Amazing. And what do you think the reason is still that we're still quite far behind? I know obviously things are changing and it's great, it does feel like there's momentum, but why do you think there's still this hesitancy?
I think there's a few reasons. You can see there's a different approach in places like London, Milan, Paris, New York. So London and New York have a bit more representation than the other cities for fashion, for Curve, in terms of the shows. I think one of the main reasons, if you consider smaller brands, I would say it's the budget, the logistics, the whole extra work that goes behind having multiple sizes on a catwalk. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I do it, or the brands do it, but it is a lot more challenging. So you have to understand that you're signing up for something that if it's not well executed, you know, it's not going to show the vision, etc. So you need to have your community back, like supporting you. You need to have your friends helping you, your family helping you. You need to have like people helping you out, because otherwise it's really difficult to make it happen. The main reason for this is because when we sample the collection, we sample them like we personally sample them in random sizes now. We do like a few 16s, a few 20s, a couple of 22s, some 14s. We do a range, and when we do the casting, we find the models that kind of work on those pieces. So it's like making a puzzle. But for that first show, it was we had some pieces, we had them in 3 different sizes, and some pieces we had them in 1 size. So every season we try to make something different to try and find the best process. But the reality is most of the models are in town like a week before Fashion Week. So you have to do that casting a week before. And what happens is you do the fitting and there's a lot of alterations, because obviously when the body grows, it grows like the proportion changes from size to size. You could have like 5 women that are size 18 and they would all have completely different bodies. So it's not really about the size, it's about the proportions. And having, when you have all the models the same kind of size, if they are all say a size 6, because it's a smaller size, there's less variation. So that's one of the main reasons why brands would stick to it, because it's a standard, and we would call it like a beauty standard for a reason. Like it standardizes production and it goes hand in hand with, you know, standardizing manufacturing processes, and it's a whole, like it's a bigger conversation.
It's boring.
It makes me want to fall asleep.
So you just seeing the same body type go down a runway, like, oh, this is dull.
Can I say something about, right? So obviously as a designer, you understand that world more than I would be the person, I guess, a consumer and someone who wears, and walks it. But when I think about that, I think about how, I'm just bringing it a little bit to music, because there'll be like, I say back in the day, it was a little bit like, we kind of want you to look like, it's like, people would be like, it's unattainable, they can't get it. You know, it's so far from your reach that it's not something that you could be. And I feel like, but that makes no sense because of how many different people walk this earth. I feel like things have changed, even yourself creating, you know, a safe, beautiful brand that encourages and, you know, beautifies all these women. But I feel like we need to come back down to earth and understand that there are people that look like this and this and this and this. Trying to create something that you can't touch anymore is boring.
100%.
It's not reality.
No.
And I feel like, but why do you want to make people feel like they can't be there?
Exactly, why do you want to exclude people, have people feel excluded? I've never
I think people like it still though, and I think things have changed, but it's not changed enough. It's still, you know, I've been lucky enough to work with you, but there are still people that I'm like, oh, I might look at their brand and go, but will they accept me? Are they gonna like me? Am I gonna ruin the aesthetic of what they want? Even though I know that I am good enough, but it's the fact that the people still don't like the hard work of making it, you know, available to everybody. But hard work is good. It's good to include people, because the more people you include, firstly, the more peas you're going to make, okay? The more people are going to want to be invested in your story. And I feel like with your brand, your story and your brand is so, the identity is very strong. I could tell immediately when I saw your clothes, the kind of person that you are, because it's there, it's able to read. But yeah, that's just one.
Well, no, I mean, it's why I do what I do with Unhidden. I mean, my first runway show was last February, and I had 29 models all across different disabilities, ethnicity, age, size, and it is a lot of work to do that because I'm doing adaptive fashion, so it's really, some of it is very specific to wheelchair users, so I can't swap out for somebody else. And then you've got people with chronic health conditions that maybe aren't available, and we only had thankfully 1 dropout, otherwise it would have been 30 models. But you know, I also, not all of them could get changed, so you couldn't have a show where everyone was doing a quick change, because that would have meant the more able bodies would have been able to have more looks, which I thought wasn't fair, which is why I had so many. Regretted it immediately after deciding to do it in terms of the amount of work. But you know, some of them have gone on to model in other campaigns now, and you're seeing it a bit more. But you know, Unhidden's still the only adaptive fashion brand who's a member of the British Fashion Council. So we've still got such a long way to go. But it's, you know, it does feel like it's getting there. But I think, there's still that disability is still way down here in the list of priorities of designers. Because like you're saying, they don't want to put the work in.
But why can't someone who has a disability look fly?
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why can't, like the same way that I want to go to Tesco and might look a bit, you know, want to feel cute in myself, why can't somebody else? I just feel I don't know, I feel like sometimes maybe my head's in the clouds that I'm like, we can all be this. But I just believe that it's possible, and it is possible because it's been done.
Yeah.
So it needs to keep happening.
Yeah. What would you like to see more of? What's been like, yeah, what do you want to see more of? Besides modelling, potentially more for, would you do more modelling?
Yeah,
Favourite brand?
I do. I want to, like, my dreams would be, you know, I want to walk for like Esther Manners because we love them. I want to walk for GCDS. I want to, you know, I want to do a campaign with Calvin Klein. I want to do,
Yes.
my dreams are very big. Like, I want to be, I also want to be just more than a face for a brand, because I feel like even us having the conversations now is important. And I feel like growing up, I didn't see, and also like in regards to like me and myself, my weight has changed a lot through my lifetime.
Okay.
But I feel like I still wasn't seeing a lot of people that looked like me in big campaigns. I think I remember seeing Rihanna one time going through Westfield, and I saw her on the Gucci store, and I was like, Rihanna, like, she's a black woman like myself, and she's the Gucci girl, and then, you know, her with like Dior. It's like, I want to see more of that, because, and the reason why it's so important when you see yourself and others is because it then helps you to believe in yourself that you are able to do that too. It's the only reason for me,
Yeah.
is why the representation is important. But yeah, and I'd love to, like, I wanna do Chet Lowe as well.
Okay.
Chet Lowe would be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, nice, yeah. That's the thing, I think just saying it out loud, like, makes it happen. I think actually even having conversations and people seeing what it means to people when they are represented is like, switches that light bulb on for them and goes, oh yeah, it must feel pretty horrible to not see yourself represented.
Yeah.
So what's your next big plan? What are you working on at the moment, or are you not allowed to tell us?
I really want to take the brand to Brazil. It's one of my, it's been on my list for a while. I feel like I've just come back from Brazil, and well, I did a little shoot there, and just seeing the brand in that context where it's actually from just made me feel re-energized and inspired. And I feel like everything just kind of made even more sense. So yeah, it's the next thing for me. It comes with a lot of logistics and organizing a lot of production. But yeah, it's the next big thing for me, because I think a lot of where the aesthetics of the brand, a lot of it comes from my teenage years in Brazil. And, you know, precisely like my memories of opening up a magazine and seeing like Giselle on the cover, who doesn't look like me, you know, and just going to the beach and seeing the complete opposite of like people just being themselves and, you know, just enjoying the weather and enjoying themselves and just being there and, you know, having very little clothes on. So yeah, I think for me that was a lot. That I always say that the brand is my alter ego, because it's almost like it's healing my teenager, inner teenager. Yeah, so that's the next step. And I'm really curious to see how Brazil is going to receive the brand, because I've received a lot of positive response from people there in terms of press and models, some people that want to buy as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it reads there as well.
Yeah. Awesome. And you've just done a big show in Milan, I think.
Yes, so our last show was September last year, and it was our first solo show. And we had 30 looks, and it was a full curve cast. Amazing. And Ashley Graham opened for us, which
so amazing.
Like,
so amazing.
I could never in a million years have imagined that. Yeah, and then she was lovely and so supportive, and all, you know, the energy backstage was really emotional. Everybody cried at the end, myself included, like I always do after a show. Happy tears. But yeah, it was very important to see that happening in Milan, because it's a city that traditionally has been quite excluded in terms of beauty standards, and it's well known for craft and traditional, traditional craftsmanship and good quality, etc. So having all of that attached to a full curve cast, for me, it just meant that, you know, there is a place for that in that city. So if there's a place for that there, it there can be a place for that in other big fashion capitals as well. Because, you know, it's one thing doing it in London is where like I'm based, and, you know, I have my people, and like we do fittings, we try things on. I can know how the community feels about it, and doing it in a place that feels a little bit foreign and that also feels a little bit daunting, you know, in terms of, you know, it's a complete new setup for me. So having that response is very important.
And what about, I mean, for both of you, behind camera, how important do you think that is to have that representation as well?
Behind the camera?
Yeah.
In terms
or just
of
in
people
like,
working on
creatives, people working on it, like people that you work with, because I think, you know, it's good to have people in front of the camera. We need to be able to see yourself represented. But I think it's also quite important to have us behind the scenes as well. Like, do you think that the opportunities are more behind the camera or more in front of the camera, or about the same?
It's a very interesting question and topic. I feel like, I'm going to just say women, firstly. It was like nice to work with a lot of women. Because, I mean, I love, you know, that both, you know, can do, but I think especially, I think more so my experience with yourself is that I love that there was so much women around. You know, it's like the girls getting changed, the girl talk, you know, oh, I love this, you look pretty, this is this, like, that's fun.
Everyone lifting each other up.
Literally, and like, you know, hiding me when I'm getting changed, you know, it's cute. I definitely feel like, I don't know if I see personally in terms myself in regards to like colour and size, I don't know if I've seen that much behind. I don't know, or maybe I've not had that enough experience to notice it. But I know that I have people that have been behind that have rooted me on for that change.
Okay.
You know, I guess you need what's it called? Your allies. You need people, you know, who may not look like you or represent you yourself, but if they're rooting for you to create that change for others to then see it, I guess because they know that they've been able to get there. And maybe, you know, we haven't had that shot. I don't know. I don't know my experience. What's yours?
Yeah, I agree. I think for us, it's definitely really important to have the representation backstage as well, because especially when it comes to like design development, there's a lot that we do that we just try on ourselves. And I mean, I've seen, you know, people work in different ways, etc. But for us, our studio is very like, it's a kind of closed little community. Like we all really like the brand, and we all really like to wear it, and we love the girls, you know. So we just, for us, it feels like a very personal experience, the whole process. So it's definitely really important for us to have that backstage as well. But in terms of if it's happening more backstage or in front of the camera, I would probably say that it's happening more in front of the camera for the majority of the cases that I've seen, because obviously there's quite a lot of you know, ticking boxes in terms of marketing, and like there's a little bit of tokenism happening in some brands. So you see that, but if that's not represented in the kind of backstage situation, like in the actual process and development, it doesn't mean that it's not genuine, but it just means that maybe not all the questions are being asked, or you know, there's so much that could be added to the process if you had the people that are in front of the camera behind the camera as well. So I think that's something really important for everyone to consider.
Definitely. Well, because not many disabled models get representation or agents, I pretty much have to trawl social media. So that's how I found the majority of them. I mean, my very first photo shoot in September 2020, like the little window of time when you were allowed to see people, I just did a shout out. And we had like hardly any followers at the time, but thankfully, and I didn't even say that it was adaptive fashion. So 10 people turned up with no idea what I was about to put them in. And one of them has just been in a campaign for Primark. And, you know, she was the first black girl who was disabled that did This Girl Can, which she filmed right at the beginning of lockdown as well, I think. So yeah, I have agencies email me all the time, like, here's our new casting, here's our models. I'm like, well, are any of them disabled? And like, no, I'm like, then I'm not working with them. Because, you know, that's kind of why I have to be that militant on it. I hope to get to a point with Unhidden Wear, because I use universal design. This is all adaptive, you just can't see what I've done to it. So it's not just for people with disabilities, but they have so few opportunities. I can't in good conscience, like hire a non-disabled model to take up space when disabled models are not given any space at all.
And I guess that's why it's difficult to find also, because why would they think that they belong if they've been made to not feel like they belong?
Yeah, exactly. To even put themselves forward for it, it's like a huge thing for so many of them.
Yeah.
And I can't forget what it means to them. I'm there like crying when they're sort of, I have like a hidden zip on one of the dresses and some with a stone would connect it without taking the dress off. And it's just tiny little changes. And then I forget about the impact it has on them. And then to have been able to see Glenys go from that in 2020 to like on the high street in 2024, it's still taken 4 years, but it's still pretty good. But like very similar to your process when you're saying you tried on different, like 5 people in a size 18 and it's all very different. I try and do seated for wheelchair users, short stature and ambulatory. So like each design 3 ways. So they look the same, but how they're actually created are completely different.
Look at the details.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but some of it's just, if you've got pockets, just putting an opening so tubes can be fed through the pocket, not over the waistband. Like really, really small differences. This is snap fastenings and no buttons, so I can just rip it off. Okay. And then it's cropped at the front, so for a wheelchair user, they haven't got all this bulk in the front, and then it covers them at the back. If their trousers, quite often, if they're not designed for being sat down in, they'll roll down. So it's just, small things, but...
And that just really, it just really makes it, what you said about the fact that, you can't really see that it's adaptive fashion. I think that's what's really important about, what we do in the sense that, it has a place in fashion and people don't look at it and like put us into a little box and say, oh, that's for that, And I think that's what the conversation starts to become like bigger. And also what you said about, that's why representation is so important, because if these people don't have the opportunities, the agents are not going to get them. If the agents don't get them, then you don't have the models to work with. So it's almost like it's this cycle and you don't really know where to begin. Like we have to start in different points of the cycle and do little initiatives here and there to kind of try and make a change in that. But I think it's slowly changing. Hopefully other brands would, will understand that as well. And I think also, how do you feel about, open sourcing a bit of what you do in the sense of, all of these changes? Obviously, I imagine you would like for other brands to start doing that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
well, that's why I think, just having these conversations. I mean, they could just start by hiring disabled models. I think that's quite a big part of it. I think, there's a place for seeing them on the runway, but not necessarily adaptive fashion, because we're 50% more likely to live in poverty. So how many disabled people are going to be buying from really, really high-end brands? So, but I think that representation thing is key. But then it's actually behind the scenes for me that's important, because I became disabled in my mid-20s and I had to put chronic sick but managed on my CV, because I know damn well if I'd put disabled, would I have been hired for any of my jobs? And there's no way I would have been.
I really, I've never met someone like you before.
Oh.
And I'm an emotional babes, okay? But I haven't, and I think this is why I love conversation. I feel like it's important for this. I'm being educated today. And I think, again, and we're all from different walks of life, but all of us have something in common when it comes to, I guess, wanting to be accepted. And I think what you're doing is very powerful.
Thank you.
I never heard of this before. I don't think I've even thought of that before. In terms
most
of
people haven't.
Right, but this is why it's great what you're doing, because, everyone wants to feel cute. Everyone wants to feel like they're not a job, or like they're hassle. This is nowhere the same level, but I remember as well for PRs would reach out to me and would want to dress me or go and get stuff. I would literally be the girl in that room full of all these beautiful clothes, and could I get my thighs in it? Could I put my arm through something? And then I'm seeing them being like, you can try this. And I'm like, you've asked me to be here and you haven't even taken the consideration of my size or what I feel comfortable in. And now I may be left with one or nothing.
Yes.
And I've had to just figure it out myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think people need to take more time when it comes to other people and how to make other people comfortable. It doesn't take that much to just understand somebody, sit down, ask what they want, ask what makes them feel good. but you ladies do, you know, and it's all about making those changes. I know we always ask, like, how is this going to be done? I just think people are scared. I think people are scared to be different. I think that's still a thing. I think people are still scared to be different, still scared to think outside the box. When actually, when we see, let's say, something like Savage Fenty, who has got every person under the sun representing this brand, walking for this brand, and they are selling like wild. They have people wanting to be part of this community because they see themselves and others, and they're learning as well about each other in these communities because it's being shown.
Yeah.
People just need to you know, get out of themselves.
Yeah, just all need to do that.
They just do. They do. It's like, you want everyone to feel included, and I'm the kind of person that's like, there's enough space on this. I know people come for me when I say couch, but I like the word couch. There's enough people on this couch for us to all sit together. Nobody has to be left out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, and I think also all of that, all of these questions, asking all of that just makes you a better designer as well, you know, like you just working with some form of restriction in terms of what you're doing. Like you're not just making something completely out of thin air. You're like, okay, I'm considering this body, I'm considering these needs. What can I do to improve this person's life with what I'm making? Like that's, for me, that's really the source of what design should be. Like it's the human-centric aspect of it that, you know, obviously we want to make beautiful clothes and, you know, obviously like there's the inspiration, there's the research, there's a whole history behind it. But for me, it's ultimately about, you know, creating solutions for the body and finding that human element that I think is so important.
That's what just blows my mind with fashion and it being exclusive is it's all human based.
Yeah.
So it's kind of to dehumanize people. It's just kind of anti to what we're really trying to do with it at the end of the day. And don't we want everyone to buy our stuff? I mean, I know capitalism is bad and all, but are we still trying to, at the end of the day, we do want to make people feel good, but also kind of, you know, you need to be able to sustain it as a business and a brand. So to exclude people is just daft to me.
I've worn Karoline's stuff so many times here. I tell you now, every time I step into a room, hey, where is this from? Where is it? I'm like, oh, Karoline Vitto, blah, blah. And I see their faces light up because it's like, as well, they're like, oh, the curves are really curving. It's staying out, you know, we're skinning out, you know, in a classy way. And like, you provide that confidence for women like myself. You know, we're not scared of a bit of skin, you know.